No stars were playing in it. And in some ways, I kind of wanted to feel what it was like, right? To see a game without the superstars. Because at this point of an NBA season, you know who you're watching, and you're excited to watch the stories that are going to be crafted around the stars of the league that we've put so much effort and energy into dissecting and evaluating and having an opinion on. And so Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Milwaukee Bucks has a bone bruise on his knee, and he was our hyperextended knee and was unavailable to play. On the other side, Trae Young, who is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting, under 24-year-old player in the NBA right now, has a bone bruise on his ankle or lower leg. And so he also was out of the game. And, I wanted to give both of these teams a chance, right, to impress me one way or another. But I got to tell you, watching the game last night, I realized how much the NBA actually needs stars. And it's why this postseason has been so disjointed. I mean, the Clippers, we were just alluding to with the Suns, we have Eddie Johnson coming up in a couple of minutes here on the show. They played a lot of their games leading up to the NBA Finals now without the opposing team's star available, including Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers. And while Paul George tried valiantly to be that guy, and Ty Lue, I think, has coached that team really well, you could tell that it was mismatched. And without Kawhi Leonard available, you never really felt like the Clippers had a chance. Now, in this game, the Bucks and the Hawks, because both of the superstars on the respective teams were out, you thought, well, maybe it'll be an even match, an even game, so to speak. And to an extent it was, and it wasn't. They got out to a 20-point lead, but then the Hawks kind of pushed it back. You got into single digits. And as dramatic and interesting as that was, I got to tell you, I didn't love it. I wanted to see the star rise to the occasion. And in that void, there were great stories around it. But I think this game proved to me that the NBA needs its stars. Because without them, they're good stories, but it's nothing that's lasting. Like, there's nothing in this game, especially from the Hawks standpoint, that is going to pop out and say, well, that guy did this or this guy did that, and the coach did X, Y, Z. The NBA needs its stars. So the overarching takeaway from this game, without Giannis and without Trae Young, is that if stars are going to get banged up at the end of this end of seasons in the NBA, like we've seen over this past this current, I should say, postseason, it's going to be a hard watch. Right, you're still going to watch because it's the NBA postseason and they're heading towards the finals, and this is the Eastern Conference Finals. But it's just not as interesting without those names that we champion. But there was something that did come out of this, and it has nothing to do with the stars or the guys that were on the court. It has everything to do with the schooling that Coach Budenholzer got by not having Giannis Antetokounmpo available. We saw Brook Lopez, who for the last 3 years has basically been go stand around the perimeter, be a stretch five, figure out how to knock down three-pointers. We need some spacing. So go stand around the perimeter, Brook, and let Giannis do what he does. Drive the lane, create in the inside. Maybe every now and then we'll give you a couple of shots from the corner. Maybe you'll knock a couple down. But mostly we want you to be a great defender, which he is. He had a couple of great steals in this game, blocks at the rim. I mean, he filled up the stat sheet in this game, but he always does that from a non-point standpoint. But by putting him on the perimeter, you actually put him in a position where he's not elite or has no chance to be elite. Not that he's an elite player at this stage in his career, but he has no chance to be offensively impactful. By Giannis not being available, I think Coach Bud got a preview of the diversity of his roster that he never thought about he could employ, and that only works because they have role players that fill voids very, very well. Obviously, Drew Holiday took on an increased role. Chris Middleton took on an increased role. They both were crossed the 20-point threshold. Bobby Portis, who didn't even play at the end of the Brooklyn Nets series, he ended up starting this game. He had 22 points, which is a playoff career high. And this team, without its star, created something like different. It's different than what we're used to seeing, and it was led by Brook Lopez, who had 33 points. Right, Brook Lopez, who I don't think scored 30 points in 5 years, was as dominant a player as you've seen in this postseason. Now, a lot of that was because Drew was setting him up perfectly. The alley-oops, that one that he just reached out of nowhere in the middle of the sky. Maybe Giannis gets that on a regular basis. Nobody thought Brook Lopez was coming, from the corner and throwing that thing down. But Brook Lopez is an option in the post that needs to be exploited more often by Coach Budenholzer. And why is this the case? Because the knock on Bud has been that he's inflexible, that he has a strategy, he has a vision for how his team is going to look, play, minutes distributions. Giannis is going to sit on the bench at this point. He's going to sit there until 3 or so minutes into the fourth quarter. Then we'll bring him back if we need to. He's gotten so rigid in his rotation that it's often been detrimental to his development of a team and the growth of the team, or even the ceiling of the team, because of his inflexibility. But I think when you're forced, as both of these teams were, but the Bucks did expertly, when you're forced to think differently by necessity because your star is unavailable, you find something that changes everything. And I think that's what Coach Budenholzer has discovered now. Now, without Trae Young, and even if Trae Young does come back for Game 6, he's going to be compromised. He's not just going to miraculously be healed, and that ankle all of a sudden is not going to bother him. He's going to be able to run around defenders and be as creative and dynamic and explosive as he's been. And so in so many ways, I'm already, and as much as I hate to say it, I'm now pushing the Milwaukee Bucks into the postseason. I have not a soft spot, but I there's an excitement level that I love in the Atlanta Hawks. I love the way that they play. I love the dynamic nature that Nate that their coach has given them. I'm forgetting his name now. I don't know why it's not dropping on the top of my head. But they've found a way to be exciting when nobody has any expectation for them. And so while I love Atlanta, the Hawks are the better team now, even without their superstar. And Brook Lopez proved, it's a one-game sample, but he proved that there is diversity in this lineup. And when the Milwaukee Bucks, assuming they move forward, and I think they will, take on the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals, that's going to be imperative. Because the Phoenix Suns have a veteran in Chris Paul who could drop 40 or create so much, production for DeAndre Ayton or Devin Booker or this team that's found themselves in the finals from the West. They have so much ability. They're well constructed. We've talked about the balance from the 3-and-D guys to their backcourt and their front court. Like they're the prototypical in some ways perfectly constructed team, the Phoenix Suns, and it's no surprise that they are where they are in the NBA Finals. And while Milwaukee has been so good the last couple of years, they're not ideally situated that way. We've seen them have their struggles. We've seen them be forced into tough situations. We've seen them get knocked out and lose to teams that they shouldn't have lost to. But this, now, from last night's game, I think has proven, and Bud had to learn this in real time, that there's diversity. There's an option, right? You don't just keep banging your head against the wall doing the same thing over and over and over. Even if it's not working, you do the same thing over and over and over again. And ultimately you fall short and your job is in jeopardy, right? He's been put on the hot seat because he can't make those adjustments in advance. I think he learned that even, and it sucked because you had to do it without Giannis, but he learned that there are adjustments that can be made because my roster has some more versatility than he ever thought possible. And that was led, obviously, by Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez, but Bobby Portis, who started as their big and was dynamic. He's relentless. He's one of those I don't want to call him Draymond Green because he's not that kind of player, but he's one of those energy guys who is a fan favorite. And when he's in the game, like the Bucks fandom has like adopted and championed him. I know he started as a Bull, but he's like their guy. Like when he comes in, they cheer, right? When he makes a play, they explode, and you can't discount that. Yes, we love the stars. Like, we love what Giannis does. We love that he's a two-time MVP and a defensive player of the year. But it's those glue guys, the Bobby Portises of the world, who often are invaluable when you get to this point in the season. And I think Bud, he learned that. And that's what's going to help him. If the Milwaukee Bucks end up winning an NBA championship, we might look back at Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals when they were forced to play without Giannis as the inflection turning point that unlocked all the true potential of this team and the diversity in that roster. We'll see. I mean, they got still some basketball to play. Who knows what the Hawks are going to come out with and try to even this series in Game 6, which is tomorrow night. But right now, I feel like Bud learned something. He got schooled because Giannis was out, and it's going to be something that benefits him significantly.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.